How is it going, folks? It is Thursday night. It is 8 p.m. It is time for your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. And this week, folks, we got a lot going on. People are getting moved around. It's release season suddenly, and it's not even a post-WrestleMania. But this time around, we got some releases on both sides of the fence. We got some AEW releases. We got some WWE releases. And we got people that have been released already showing up at new destinations. So people are wasting no time. So we're going to talk about that, where some of these people might end up, or some of these people might never be seen again. Who knows? We'll get into all that, folks. We got shows this weekend. We got NXT coming to DC for Vengeance Day, and we got AEW heading all the way down under for Grand Slam. All that and more, folks. Get ready. Your Big Old Belt Wrestling Podcast starts right now.
Big Old Belt, Big Old Belt, Big Old Belt, Big Old Belt, Big Old Belt. All I really want is that Big Old Belt, 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 Big Old Belt. All I really need that Big Old Belt.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us here tonight on the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast, kicking off our Season 5 last week. So this is Season 5, Episode 2. Got two of the guys here with me tonight. We weren't quite sure how many were going to show up, but we got three of us, more than I expected. We got a bit of a triple threat going on tonight. So I am Will in the center of your screen. To the left of me, we got Damian G down the Lone Star State. And to my right is the Giant Crab, Jamal. Gentlemen, how is it going this week?
Oh, good. Pitchers and catchers, man.
That's right. Baseball.
That's right.
Starting. That's right. And you know, we've had snow here in DC. Pitchers and catchers reporting. So the first taste of spring is looming already. There we go. So I don't know. I guess let's we were talking before we went on the air how we should start this. And we knew we were going to be talking about all these sudden bits of movement with talent that are happening. But I think the biggest story of the week that ties into that is someone crashed a party on NXT and did not waste any time. Because I guess it was Monday that the word came out that Ricky Starks, who we've been, this has been like the holding pattern of all holding patterns, I think coming close to a year of wondering what's going on with Ricky Starks. He seems to want out of Jacksonville. When's it going to happen? Is he going to be stuck there for a year and a half or whatever? And then lo and behold, Monday morning, we get word, yeah, he's finally gotten his release. And then it didn't even take 24 hours. The next night in Orlando at NXT at the Performance Center, who shows up and crashes the party? A as yet to be named Ricky Starks shows up in the crowd, and they quickly say he's here, he has arrived. He puts up a video saying that the Revolution will be televised and he is absolute and all that. But we got our first big movement of the year. Ricky Starks is I don't know if he's necessarily NXT, but he is definitely part of WWE, and it did not take long for it to happen. So stuff is happening very quickly with the regards to some of these people that we will go into tonight as far as where they might end up or moves they might be looking to make. Damian, I'll go to you first. Ricky Starks showing up on NXT within a matter of 24 hours of getting his release. Did it catch you off guard as much as it caught me off guard?
No. Because this has been long overdue. This has been long overdue. We've heard the rumors for a long time, especially with him showing up backstage at other WWE events, to see Cody and to hang out with Punk, etc. So this brought no surprise to me whatsoever. The only surprise I really did have is what you alluded to earlier, which is we don't know what his name is going to be, if he's going to be able to keep the Ricky Starks moniker. Is he just going to be called like Absolute Allen or something like that? Because I believe from what I heard, legal hadn't really gotten the permission to use Ricky Starks on air by the time they got everything put together.
Which is happened fast.
Yeah, which is why he didn't mention his name. The announcers didn't mention his name. And as you said, well, he's here. It was like, holy crap, look who it is. And, if you didn't know who it was, you would have thought, who? And even the way he just came out so randomly, right? It was just kind of rushed, but it wasn't surprising. So with the writing on the wall with his release, it was inevitable he was going to finally make his debut. I'm just, like I said, I'm just surprised we weren't allowed to get his name, but I guess I know why.
Crab, are you surprised they did it this way?
Okay. The short answer is no, because where else is he going to go? The longer answer, but the question I have to you, Will, is if you could set the table a little bit, because I didn't watch NXT Tuesday, was this something that happened after the taping ended? Was this something that happened live on air?
Middle of the show.
Middle of the show?
Yeah.
Randomly.
You know what it was reminiscent of? The best comparison I've heard? It was like when Scott Hall walked out on Nitro. They were in the middle of the show, and it was in between matches. It wasn't in the middle of the match, but he just came out of nowhere. That's how they did it.
That makes it more impactful because
in the crowd, not on the ramp. He was in the crowd.
You're sure, but I saw the clip.
Okay.
And the clip, just made it seem like, oh, this is something they taped for after the show. Maybe they're using it in a package next week, whatever. But this is smack dab in the middle of the show. Damn. We have who knows what's going to happen in NXT. Good on them for doing that. Now, to your original question of, whether or not he was going to go to, of course he was. The real question was he going to go to the main roster or not?
Right.
When and where was the real question.
Because, Jade went straight to the main roster. We were speculating that maybe she shouldn't have. But they already have Jade in NXT. Her name is Lax Legend. Fine. Can go anywhere that he wants. He really is a one-of-a-kind kind of a guy. I think that we've been saying for a year and a half now that he's definitely a WWE type character, not necessarily in a bad way, but he's a guy that will absolutely fit in, fits the mold, knows people, knows what it is, and it can just walk right in, apparently through the crowd, and go, yeah, give me 30 seconds and I'll cut a hell of a promo and get people talking about it. And this also kind of does two things for me. Number one, holy shit. Number two, obviously the crowd knows who he is. And that was a thing that we, assume that this WWE cult is just not going to know who anybody is. Mm-hmm. And they're just going to be able to, it's just insular. If you're not a Vince guy, you're a nobody. Well, that's clearly not the case. Jade's come in. I mean, yeah, Punk did come back. Cody did come back, but as a completely different person. But, there wasn't this stigma of like, well, damn, Cody must have fallen down the well for 6 years. What happened to him? Like, no, we know what happened to him. Same thing with Andrade. But then people that aren't WWE people, Pentagon Jr. showing up. Oh, yeah, he's a big deal. And if you're unfamiliar, you're going to get familiar very quickly. But people already know. Now you got a guy like Starks coming in. Oh, yeah, he's a big deal. Well, obviously most of the people already know. And I don't know if you were there, Will, but I know that I was there when the Ascension moved up from NXT to the main roster. SmackDown here in Washington, and no one knew who they were.
Yeah. Some of these folks don't translate.
Right. So a lot of times it doesn't translate, and that was back then. But the point is that we can't call them just mindless WWE drones anymore. They absolutely know what it is, and I think that's a great thing. That's a great thing.
Let's see.
So what do they do now, though? Because this is the question, though. Like, obviously, you have the big pay-per-view coming up. You have the SmackDown's going to be here. The pay-per-view is going to be here. Yes. Okay. I was going to say, obviously he showed up on NXT, but is that where he finishes?
That's what I was thinking too. The way they did it, I was like, I would not be shocked if he shows up Friday on SmackDown, Saturday again here in DC for Vengeance Day, and then Monday on Raw, and kind of shows up everywhere. It's almost in the same format where he pops up out of the crowd, he cuts a quick promo, and that's it. Hit and run. I would not be shocked to see that happen.
They could test the water that way to see who responds best.
Mhm.
And not necessarily that the Raw, SmackDown, NXT crowd are so radically different, but especially nowadays since things are gelling together. But if that pop, when he's up in the crowd, or if they show him in the suite, or if he's there front row, or whatever, and then of course they can peel the onion back a little bit more. Maybe they actually say his name on TV. Maybe he shows up in something other than just a wife beater. Maybe he leans more into the Ricky Starks persona, or maybe he just reinvents himself as somebody completely new. Maybe he comes out with Cody. There's a bunch of different avenues to go with it. And they can do whatever they want starting tomorrow night.
Now, here's the thing. I've seen so many people so focused on this name thing, where it's like, look, they didn't give him a different name, but they didn't say a name. They say he's here. And folks just honed in on that. And as for some folks are really in their feelings about it, they're all worried. And then I'm just kind of like over here, like, as good as he is, I'm not really sweating a name at this point. Because people know who he is. Like I said, people know who he is. They know where he's from. They know his story. People aren't like, who's this guy? That's the biggest thing you need to be aware of. People are like, who the hell is this dude? People reacted to him. So the name, I don't think necessarily is that big of an issue. I mean, hell, Kevin Steen became Kevin Owens. That one no darn big deal. Prince Devitt became Finn Balor. I mean, there's plenty of people.
El Generico became Sami Zayn, and people lost their mind when that happened.
Well, I don't know if that happened. I mean, I've never
Allegedly,
seen those two guys in the same place. I don't know.
Might be an orphanage thing. I don't know.
Oh, we just had Pentagon Jr. become Penta. So
yeah,
Io Sky. The names, a tweak with the name ain't gonna be the end of the world to me. But God, some folks ain't gonna be able to handle it for whatever reason. But at this point, I think it's most likely what you were saying, Damian, that this deal came together so quickly, regardless, of how much prep work they could do. Knowing, look, we know this guy, we know we want him, we know he wants to come, but still, until you can put pen to paper, there's certain wheels you can't put in motion, especially filing legal stuff regarding copyrights. There's no way that could be done until they officially had it. So I think there's a good chance the name stays how it is, but at the same time, I'm not terribly worried about it. I don't think it's anything to like get super in your feelings about, like some of these folks are online.
Well, let me ask you this, because he still has some indie dates left. Does that mean that he starts off in NXT immediately, if not sooner, or does he still finishes those indie dates, or they treat him like an elevated WWE ID guy?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, like, obviously he's going to be on TV. We just don't know what channel yet. But now that he's doing a big show for House of Glory, and he's going to be in Chicago for a thing out there, I forget which one it is, but he still has some indie dates to wrap up. Will they? Because obviously we're just going on the history of WWE being completely insular. Once you're in. The door's locked behind you, and then the brainwashing, your hypnotoad comes into play, and then next thing you know, you are Finn Balor. But the idea is, do they start immediately and hit the ground running? Are we going to see Ricky Starks or whoever this person is challenge Obafemi on Saturday night?
Well, apparently he had an indie booking Saturday and he's been pulled from it. So sure sounds like he's going to show up at Vengeance Day on Saturday in some form, in some fashion. But as far as I haven't heard stuff about other dates yet. But apparently this Saturday, wherever he was going to be, that is not happening.
Right.
And he literally just won the Defy Championship from Kenta, like last week. So that's going to be interesting.
Shows you how quick this happened.
Exactly. It must have came together almost to the point of tampering, how quickly this came about. We talk about tampering in other sports.
Where it's been this whole damn time is they know he wants to come there. They know they want him. And it was just like, the moment you get the paper, let us know. And boom, you'll have your contract sitting there. It's all drawn up. You just need your damn release, and we need to be able to see it. And then for whatever. Now, here's the thing. Now we can start going into the broader topic here of all these releases. What do you think might be up that all of a sudden out of nowhere Monday, old Tony Khan suddenly decided, okay, Ricky Starks, you can go. Malachi Black, you can go. And there was one more, right? Malachi and
Miro.
who another one who's been there forever and not seen in ages. All of a sudden Monday, it's like, okay, you guys, that's cool. Not you, Phoenix, though. Not you. You stay here. But those three just suddenly out of nowhere, Monday word comes out
Phoenix
that
is injured. That's the only reason why he's still there.
Yeah. So what do you think's up? That all of a sudden there's this change of heart. That these people he's had locked in the closet for so long, he's suddenly letting them go.
Because they have no use to his product right now. He's kept them on the shelves, specifically someone like Miro and Ricky Starks, for the longest of time. So what would be the point now to bring them back just to job them out, put over talent on the way back out, if you've already had them sitting at home collecting money and not being a part of your program, knowing they inevitably want to leave anyway? I understand the not giving them the release at first. So like your point, Will, but inevitably it's a sunk cost. So you might as well just let them go. The Phoenix thing, Crab is right. That's just an injury tack on for time. So that's just him playing, good wrestling business for the time. He still sells merch, I'm sure. But as far as just the rest of them, it's been no secret that they've wanted to go back. If you listen to dirt sheets, right? People like Sean Ross Sapp, etc. They've wanted to come back. So now they got their releases. They can do whatever the hell they want within 90 days, hopefully. I don't know why, unless it's just the contract running out for Ricky Starks is the only caveat.
That's
where
actually
everybody else was just released.
Literally, there's no 90 days involved here.
Was he released or did his contract just plain run out?
I believe it just ran out, which is why he was able to appear on television. It just expired.
Right. But don't you think that that's just the worst possible outcome? Like, if for whatever reason I say that my last show here is going to be March 31st, does that mean that I just phone it in until March 31st? Or do we actually make something of it until March 31st? If you know that Penta's leaving, then give him some dream matches, give him some farewell matches, give him something to be remembered by. And you can argue that, well, we don't want to elevate his stock before he leaves, but he was famous before he got there. It's not like you took a guy, built him from nothing, and he says, hey, I did what I did over here. It's been great. Everything's amicable. I'm just going to move on to the left. Ricky Starks was a known guy. Penta, obviously, Phoenix, obviously, and then
every guy we're talking about,
and then a slew of WWE guys.
They didn't repackage any of these guys. They didn't repackage Malachi. They didn't repackage Rusev and Miro. It's the same thing.
Right.
Just change the name.
Right. No, so it would be different if it was Julia Hart, came through and was like, hey, I think I'm going to make a move somewhere else, but my contract expires in a month and a half. Okay. Well, just at home, we'll give you a check and 90 days. Even if that is Julia Hart, still doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't you want to maximize the potential for everybody? Because they did it with Bryan Danielson, and it worked to some degree until the belt got involved, which was silly. But we knew that he was leaving. It's okay. He can go. So for AEW to treat this as if it's a very WWE thing of them to do, where it's just like, well, we're the only people, and we're going to purposely tank your stock, or we're going to purposely. It just seems predatory that way, which is why the whole Phoenix thing doesn't sit right with a lot of people. He's injured. Maybe you don't want to cut him while he's injured because that's a health HIPAA liability issue. But if he's ready to go, then make something of it. Fuck it, sell the merch. Yeah. Sell crutches. I don't care what you do, but you have him for now. Let's use it. Now, when Starks got injured with that, he had a neck injury or something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did put him on commentary. Yeah, he was involved with stuff and things. But the point is that, well, he said 6 months ago that he wasn't injured. Okay, so that wasn't it. He said, 8 months ago that he's just waiting by the phone for the call. So that's what makes this thing even more frustrating, is because you had the talent, you did nothing with him, and then now that he's somewhere else, people go, well, not people, but you kind of wonder, well, AEW, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what are you doing? Because no matter what happened in AEW, no matter how it ended, he could have ended the Grand Slam Australia in the main event, beating Moxley, and then ceremoniously, you're like, hey, I got to drop this belt, and leaves it in the ring with his boots and an AEW bumper sticker and pieces out the door. And then he shows up on NXT next week. It doesn't change what happens in NXT. Oh my God, Ricky Starks is here in the middle of the show for no reason. So if you're AEW, I don't know what you're doing. Like, why do you just leave money on the shelf like that for a year?
And especially when the last few months they suddenly were like, okay, we're gonna let you work indies. You can go do that on the weekends. If we approve of the place you want to work, we're cool with you doing that, but we don't want you on TV.
And it goes to House of Glory, which has like a streaming deal, and it's one of the bigger indies in the country, among the other bigger indies in the country. And every time he shows up somewhere, it just proves again that he's doing nothing in AEW. Why? Like somebody's gonna have to make that make sense to me.
We'll probably never get the answer too. That's the weirdest thing. If we'll ever get an answer about what the hell this last 9-10 months of his career was all about, with him just being iced out like this, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. And he's far from the only one that has had this happen to. And you think, or not think, but you AEW seems to be like the wrestlers' workplace. Like, this is what, we have a guy that understands wrestlers, he understands the business, has the capital to back it up, and this is going to be a place for the people, sort of. But then, Phoenix gets injured. Okay, cool. You got Starks. Malachi is not really doing anything. His gimmick's kind of stale. And maybe they get a release. Andrade, Miro literally said, yeah, they pitched me a thing. It was fucking stupid. I'm not doing that. Come back.
He's been iced out the longest of all of them.
Right. They brought his wife in. She was hot for a cup of coffee, and then that happened. And then, of course, what have we been saying about AEW for the past year and change? They have this talent, elevate them. And then the talent that we're saying that they should put on TV are largely walking out the door. So we get Puppet Monet versus Harley Cameron at the pay-per-view.
So let's look at the other two. Since we know what Ricky Starks did. There's no question there anymore about, hey, what's Ricky Starks going to do? How soon is he going to show up? We got our answer on that one. But as far as the other two on the AEW side here, like I said, we got Malachi Black and we got Miro as the other two releases from that day. Malachi, I don't think there's much of a question because we know where his wife is. They just moved her from Raw to SmackDown. And as soon as that happened, I kind of got the feeling, well, that's probably his inevitable landing place. He's going to show up on Friday nights. Just a matter of when, but I figured that was probably the inevitable destination for him. So I don't think there's a lot of question there. Maybe y'all have different thoughts on that one. Miro, to me, is much more, I think, of a question mark. Because to me, that guy just feels like he hasn't been around in so long. And on top of that, it feels like his whole presentation of, the Bulgarian brute, and he was a monster and all this. And I can't see where he would fit in going back to WWE with that gimmick. I think he'd have to do something completely different because they have plenty of monsters right now. My God, you got Bronson Reed, you got Kevin Owens,
Breaker.
You got Braun Breaker. They have a plethora of fresher, newer monsters. Obafemi. I mean, God, even if you put him in NXT, it's like they got monsters. So I look at Miro, I'm like, TNA maybe, or maybe Japan, but I can't see WWE for him. I don't know. Damien, what do you think about those two? Because Miro's the one that just it doesn't seem like a slam.
That's the one too. Yeah, that's the one that's kind of perplexing to me because you could sit here and say, oh, Rusev Day can be successful again in WWE, but I would counter in saying, well, Aiden English was just as responsible for getting Rusev Day over as Rusev was. So where does he work now? Oh, right. He works at TNA.
Good point.
So
True,
that would be
true.
an interesting reorganization of bringing Rusev Day or calling it Miro Day over in TNA. And to be quite frank, I think with the loss of, let's say, Josh Alexander, they do need someone who could actually work, who's a bigger athletic guy. So why not have Miro just come in to TNA at that point? And they have a crossover with NXT, so that potentially could mean he would wind up working in NXT for a spell. So I think that's the only, for me, if I was his manager, I'd say, hey, go rebuild your stock here unless they offer you a boatload of money. But Malachi, otherwise known as Alistair, he was a Triple H guy in NXT when Trips was there.
Definitely.
He was their former heavyweight champion, right? He was their former number one in the company. As you said, well, his wife is in SmackDown. It's almost too much like a slam dunk for him to go. Whereas if he didn't go, I would be more surprised than anything else if he just did a complete 180 and himself wound up going to TNA. But that's why I see it breaking down. I'm with you, Will. I think Miro going to TNA is probably in his best bet.
Yeah, I think the question is what does Miro want? Because Miro and Starks, though the result is the same, took different paths to get there. Yes, Miro was also injured as well for a while, but I think the main difference between Miro and Stark is that Miro's gimmick is dead. Like he did the weird video game gimmick that
Forgot about that. Oh my god.
Gamer Miro, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, but Gamer Miro was a thing, and then they broke an arcade cabinet, and then and then he got mad at God, like literally.
The Redeemer.
And that was kind of weird. So what the problem is that his gimmick is he booked himself into a corner. Because you challenge God to a match. If you win, you're the Antichrist. If you lose, then you are vaporized into oblivion.
To be fair, Vince also challenged God on TV once before also.
Yeah, and even still, that was a time limit draw. But it's still to the point of like there is nowhere to go from there. Like I challenged God. Okay, cool. How did it work out? It didn't. Who's your next opponent?
Eddie
Sean Dean? I'm going to challenge the TNT title now and get that back after feuding with God for 6 months. It doesn't make sense. So what does he want? And who knows where these ideas came from? Gamer Miro or Miro Constantine, whatever the hell the gimmick was that he was trying to get over. But what does he want? Does he want to be the big fish in the small pond? Does he want to be a heel or a face? Because I think face Miro is something that we really haven't explored. He's either been like a sympathetic heel or a dick, and it doesn't. We haven't really seen Miro as an actual likable, face, and he does have a story. Obviously, very immigrant, very European, speaks a couple of different languages, made his way from nothing or whatever, and then, came up and did a thing, and now he's somebody. There's a bunch of different avenues to go with him, but if he wants to just do Skater Boy Miro or Call of Duty Miro, then it doesn't, I don't see that going too well in any promotion for any reason. There's just you gotta kind of evolve past that. So I don't know what that looks like for him, if that's what we've seen from him over the past couple of years.
Yeah, he's definitely the question mark of that group of AEW folks that got released. So I guess we will see. Now, we don't know if he's free and clear yet, but
true.
It's supposedly rumored to be that him and Malachi are both out there. So,
but also I think Malachi has the same problem. Mm-hmm. Like you can only be this pseudo. Like they took the gimmick where he was this Jim Jones-esque cult leader, super charismatic and all this other stuff too. But then they bring in a guy like Vincent, and they bring in the Righteous.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, oh, okay, well,
And coming back to WWE, we already got the Wyatts doing their thing.
right. So we don't necessarily need that. And then when the gimmick evolved, and then they started to get into like the Black Mist of Doom and Cauldrons and Skulls and all this other bullshit, and it's like, okay, well, we're gonna need something. We're gonna need something more. Are you a supernatural cult, or are you a here, drink this grape juice that's secretly poison cult? Which is it? And then Julia gets hurt, who was the face of the whole gimmick. Because to be fair, I mean, Buddy and Brody, great guys, great talent, but it was Julia. Julia had the biggest come up in the entire faction. She slowly took over the faction, and unfortunately, because she's a girl, she can't be out there when the shit goes down. But realistically, it was Julia. So I kind of want to see what that looks like, and obviously they don't need Malachi because nobody's really saying like, "Uh-oh, Malachi's gone. What's going to happen to the group now?" This is like losing one of the, when George Harrison gets shot. Like, I don't know. Oh no, that'll be fine.
Yeah, they ain't sweating it. That's what folks ain't sweating that one at all for whatever reason. All right, let's do this. Let's do our halftime break since we're a little past the halfway mark. When we come back, we'll talk about the WWE side of these releases because Lord knows there's a whole list of WWE folks that we didn't even get into. And then after that, we can break it down with the NXT Vengeance Day going on this weekend here in DC, and we can talk about some AEW Grand Slam happening in Australia. So lots of stuff still to come, folks. Stay with us. Your Big Old Belt Wrestling Podcast. We'll be back right after this.
Looking to get your brand in front of people who eat, sleep, and breathe entertainment? Big Gold Belt Media is the place to be. We're all about reporting on movies, TV shows, conventions, and everything in between. And we want your brand to be a part of the action. Partnering with us means your sponsorships get featured right in the midst of our content. Plus, we're going to hype you up on all of our social media, connecting you with an audience that loves discovering new things from trusted voices in entertainment. We're easy to find. Just look for us on Big Gold Belt on all your social media platforms. Don't wait, reach out today, and let's start building something amazing together. Your spotlight is waiting here at Big Gold Belt Media, biggoldbelt.com.
Yes, indeed, folks. Thanks for being with us here tonight on the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast from Big Gold Belt Media. As we were saying, we just broke down the AEW side of the releases this week, but there's a whole WWE side to this too that happened over the weekend. So let me pull up the list here of the names WWE released. I'll run these down, and I guess we can we don't need to, I think, hit every one, but let's see what the standouts are on this. So the group of names from WWE. We have the Authors of Pain, Akam and Razor, along with them Paul Ellering. So that's most of your Final Testament right there. As far as that group goes, outside of old Karrion Kross and Scarlett, took care of his henchmen. They're out of there, and Paul Ellering's out of there. Cedric Alexander is also on the list, so I think a lot of people have an idea of where he might end up. Sonya Deville, who has been there quite a long time, so she's out of there. Blair Davenport, who only recently had just shown up on SmackDown in a limited role, and they were doing a little bit of stuff with her, but she had been on SmackDown a little bit recently. Isla Dawn, who has just been one half of the women's tag champs for quite some time with old Kaylee Ray Alba Fire. That's the name they ended up using for her. Isla Dawn is also gone. Giovanni Vinci, who never got that singles thing going when they split up Imperium. It just never worked out for him. So Giovanni Vinci has been cut loose. The Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, having their cup of coffee in WWE as they are known to have. And last but not least, Elektra Lopez of Legados del Fantasma. She has also been released. So that's our list of WWE names that they released over last week. I think for me, looking at that list, I wasn't really surprised necessarily by any of those names. If anything, I think maybe Isla Dawn kind of surprised me because they they had had that tag team pretty featured for a while. But it may just be a case of they figure, oh, well, we gave them their tag title run. We had them on the show in Scotland, gave them their hometown moment, and that's the life cycle of this act. I don't know. I really like Isla Dawn, so I'm hoping to see her elsewhere. Since Lord knows she came up through the Indies, she's not one of these projects that just started at the Performance Center. As far as the rest of those names, though, I was just kind of like not shocked by it. So, we'll go to you first, Damien. Thoughts on that list of names I ran off?
I mean, you described it. Nothing really was shocking about it. It was just standardized releases. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the first release cycle since the merger, the TKO merger?
I want to say
it has to be something else.
I want to say no, because we had a Black Trash Bag Day around the time the merger happened.
Okay.
And then, of course, there were more corporate layoffs around the time the merger happened for obvious corporate reasons because of redundancy and stuff like that. But I want to say that there was a swath of talent and corporate that got the axe around that time.
Okay, so even if it wasn't the first time this happened in the TKO, you're not missing a lot of talent. I was somewhat surprised about the Sonya Deville contract not being renewed, which is different than her being released. They basically pulled the Baron Corbin on her and say, hey, we're not going to re-sign you. So, and I say that because she tried her darndest to get the Pure Fusion collection over as a moniker. I did enjoy her as the evil assistant GM to Adam Pearce, with the power suit, Sonya Deville and things like that, messing with Naomi for like a good 6 months mentally. I am surprised by Isla Dawn. Will, I will agree with you. I remember watching her in WSU way back in 2016, 2017, and she's come a long way. She's come definitely a long way from her time at NXT UK as well. So do any of them surprise me? No. I feel as if this is standardized WWE business that we've seen year after year. Like Jamal said, the Black Trash Bag Day, as it were. So nothing really surprised. Now, if someone, and I hate deeming it this way, if somebody of more ilk or more importance to the company got let go, then I'd say, oh, okay, now we need to have a discussion. But this is standardized layoff. This is like, Jamal has said this numerous times. This is a corporate entity laying off redundancy. So that's how I view this.
Crab, let me hit you with this.
Okay.
Of the names on that list, who do you want to see? Who are you most looking to see go elsewhere in a different environment?
Okay, so because of the names and who they are and what they bring, I don't need them anywhere personally. That's just reflective of just who they are. However, I do think that Isla Dawn and B. Priestley, if they're not on the jet to Jacksonville this weekend, what are you doing, Khan? What are you doing? They always could use more women in AEW for a number of different reasons. And unfortunately, because of what's happening with Toni Storm, Harley Cameron is doing yeoman's work. I don't necessarily love the gimmick, but she has come so far, so fast, and goddamn it, she's earned it. With that said, though, there has to be more at the upper echelon of the AEW women's scene than Toni Storm, Mariah May, obviously Harley, obviously Monet, a healthy Statlander, and for fuck's sake, Willow. I mean, come on, what are we doing here? But also, for fuck's sake, Athena. Why is Athena and the girl Billy Starks behind the paywall of Honor still? Make it make sense.
Yeah.
So they have the talent, but they can obviously use more. If Ricky Starks can still make a splash, I think that B. Priestley can make a splash because she may be the biggest overall name. I don't know. Like her time in WWE wasn't great. Isla Dawn had a better go of it in WWE in general, but still nothing to write home about. So if they can get back to that thing that got them in that building in the first place, then yeah, that's a shot in the arm for the women's division. Obviously, Cedric is going to the Hurt Business. That's not, sure. AOP and Ellering, don't necessarily need them to do anything, especially after that, clusterfuck of an indie show that they tried to get Ron going in England.
Oh, God, that's right. That might get rebooted now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would love to see them try that again. But, again, they're just two generic meatheads that in a sea of meatheads. There are plenty of guys that have been released from WWE that we haven't seen showed up on TV. Like, where is Dijak? Is he going to make a push? And then also it just depends on, like, realistically what they're doing. AEW seems to be dead set in their ways about who they want to push. And that is what it is. And there's not much room at the top. So if you're one of those guys that had a C- gimmick and you got, not renewed, then where do you think that you're just going to go in and take the bull by the horns? In MLW maybe, but like realistically, I don't see, I don't necessarily need anybody. But yes, the AEW can always use more women, especially women that that have a history of doing the work. So
yeah, they're plug and play. They're ready to go. They don't need the training or nothing like that. That's high quality talent you can just add to the mix.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's screaming for Aaliyah to jump into AEW.
That's a name I have not thought of in ever.
I have not thought about her since her release at all.
Well, there you go.
Well, wait a minute. Wasn't B. Priestley previously in AEW and left unceremoniously with some bullying charges of some sort?
Yeah, she was like in that Jimmy Havoc. Like
those
era
early days.
Of
those
AEW.
Early days.
Yeah, so she was there for like literally a cup of coffee, and then next thing you know, she's doing NXT UK started.
Right.
Got plugged into that immediately.
So necessarily she wouldn't go straight back there given the opportunity, right? With all things considered from the past.
Well, I mean, you think, but then again, the first person that I would say never to is CM Punk. He just left AEW, and I thought he was supposed to be a locker room cancer, an old man yelling at the clouds, these damn kids and their Nintendo Switches and all that other stuff. And then, of course, the stuff that we saw making the TV, and all the controversy. And it's worked out fine ever since. Yeah. I mean, yes, he's made out of paper mache, so he's been injured, but I haven't heard
not one peep.
Not one peep. So either he's learned his lesson to just shut the fuck up and get paid, or I don't know, maybe there's a bit of backstage politicking going on.
Right.
Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle.
I'll tell you the one thing, my only other thought on it is this, from stuff I saw online, and I was like, oh God, absolutely not. The one thing I do not want to see is I do not want to see the Good Brothers go to AEW with the idea that them and the Bucks and Kenny get back together and they bring an end to the Death Riders. No. I don't like that. That was the one thing I saw people clamoring for. That I was like, oh, you get the hell out of here with that shit. Any rehashing of Bullet Club, I don't want to see it. I don't care what company it's in. So, no. I bet they show up in TNA, probably.
And also, those two in Japan are essentially gods in the wrestling world in Japan. So they could literally just go back to New Japan, work limited dates, and like to quote Jamal, get paid, shut up and get paid. So I could see them doing that.
Or go to Strong and just, work out of Los Angeles.
That's true too.
And do the occasional show in Japan once every couple months.
Yeah, not have to do all the flying back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, they can do that. You have in New Japan World, that's where they'll be. And if you need to show up at Korakuen Hall twice a year, then yeah, they can make the trip.
There you go.
It's right there for them.
Any other thoughts on those names? Or are we moving on? I've said anything I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think, obviously, like, in all seriousness, nobody wants to see anybody, like, lose their job. But this is a far cry from the black trash bag days of a few years ago when you go, well, damn, you guys only hired these people just to spite the other companies. No, I mean, these are solid losses. Yes, unfortunately, that's the wrestling business. This is exactly why wrestling needs a union, because, hey, your gimmick isn't working, you're fired. No, that's bullshit. You need an employees union to fight for you for that. But that's a different conversation for a different day. I don't think anybody's in danger of not landing on their feet somewhere, but it's just that, without some major push or some cultural shift, it was what it was. And honestly, I don't think this is going to be the end of it. I think we're towards the end of the first quarter. Maybe not fiscally, but we're definitely towards the end of the first quarter or the calendar year. And, we got to make sure the book's okay.
That's true. And now they're heading into the, Mania season where they're going to want to be able to say record profits for, the year. So how much fat you can trim just makes those numbers even bigger.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, these definitely came out of nowhere. I was like, beginning of February, and they're just dropping some names.
Because realistically, they would rather cut you than put you in WWE Speed. Shows you what it is.
True.
Yeah. It's a new era. So different ways of doing things. All right, let's switch gears to this weekend because we got some shows this weekend. One of them happening close to home here. So we'll start with that. NXT Vengeance Day comes to DC this weekend at the old, now they're calling it the Care First Arena, apparently, from what I'm seeing.
Where the hell is that?
the formerly known as the Entertainment and Sports Arena. That old, they're calling it the Care First Arena, though. No,
what was it originally, way back in the day? What was it before?
It was a mental institution.
Oh, okay. Good place for a wrestling event. Got it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. So it was the infamous St. Elizabeth's Hospital, which started as, and this is the actual old name for it, the Washington Home for the Mentally Retarded. And dead serious, look it up. And then, of course, the hospital was decommissioned. That's where Hinckley went after he shot Reagan. And then, of course, it's a massive complex on the east side of D.C., and then they decommissioned it. Homeland Security took half of it, and then the rest of the half of it turned into like apartments. Good luck being haunted in that bitch every night. Couldn't be me. No way I pay $1,800 a month to live over there. But a part of that was to build the arena, which was the Washington Entertainment and Sports Arena, which is where the Mystics play. And then apparently they got a corporate sponsorship. So, good on them. As a taxpayer, give me my cut.
It's become the home of wrestling. The Lord knows AEW's been through there a few times now.
Yeah, New Japan had a pay-per-view there. Yeah. SmackDown's going to be downtown tomorrow, but the Vengeance Day is going to be at the Nut House on St. Elizabeth's.
There you go. On Saturday. So we got that going down. I'll run down the card here. This is an interesting show. There's some matches I'm interested in, and then there's some matches I am absolutely not interested in. It's a very mixed bag on this one. But what we got is 6 matches lined up at the moment. Trick Williams versus Eddie Thorpe in their ongoing feud. We'll have a strap match. We got the NXT tag titles, Nathan Frazier and Axiom. Well, Fraxium, they've been champs for a while now. Going against Josh Briggs and Yoshiki Inamura, the guy came over from Noah that they've been giving a push to. Javon Evans and Ethan Page. That is like the grudge matches of all grudge matches in NXT. So they're having their big singles showdown. A now fatal 4-way for the NXT Women's Championship. It had been a 3-way, but we've added another piece to the mix this week. So Julia defending against Bayley, Roxanne Perez, and Cora Jade. Personally, I would have just kept it a 3-way, but it's a 4-way now, so that's how it is. And last but not least, a triple threat for the NXT title with Oba Femi defending against Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. Very odd card to me. Like, I really like that women's title match when it was a 3-way, and adding Cora Jade did not increase my interest in that one. But for me, Javon and Ethan, I'm really interested in. I'm sure the tag match will be good because Praxium pretty much has always been really solid. Trick Williams and Eddie Thorpe in a strap match. I don't know. Maybe he'll surprise me, but I don't have high hopes going in on that one. Women's match is the most interesting to me, even if they made a 4-way. And God, that main event, I missed a match. My bad. Women's North America title. Forgot about this. Fallon Henley and Stephanie.
Okay.
Butler. That's the match.
There it is.
That is the match I'm most interested in on the show. Because Stephanie has been red hot. So Steph Baker versus Fallon Henley should be awesome. And that damn three-way, Oba Femi and Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. I'm sure the idea is to feed some people to Oba Femi, but I can skip seeing that. Mixed bag of a show for me. That's my thoughts.
Now, I'm looking at prices now to see how much tickets are for Vengeance Day, because I agree it is a bit of a mixed bag, but it's not the worst card ever either. So
there's a couple things I'd like to see, but then I'd want to bounce. You know.
So now that I have, it's a 5:30 start.
Yeah,
really.
The new 6 o'clock start time for the show.
Oh, well, that's that.
Which I like. That's a plus.
Yeah. Oh my god, I'm definitely more interested now. I could have sworn it was 8 o'clock, but yeah, now that I'm looking at tickets and seeing, like, would I pay $70 plus Ticketmaster fees? So would I pay $140? Thanks, Ticketmaster, for to get into the building. And I don't know. And the reason why I say that is because the building itself isn't bad. It's a small place, somewhere around 4,000, 4,500.
Yeah.
In general, good, not a bad seat in the house, intimate, and the card itself is equal parts. I could definitely skip, but I would want to see the strap match. I don't care. But seeing Stephanie Vicaire and seeing the former AEW talent, Fallon Henley, would be a good thing also. Julia versus Bailey versus Perez and Cora Jade would be interesting. Haven't seen Nathan Frazier, I've seen him, but I haven't seen Nathan Frazier live since I saw him in Jacksonville when he was, Ben Carter in NXT AEW. So it's a 60-40 split, good to bad. So depending on how much these tickets look like, I might be in the building for that.
Yeah, it might be one of those go down to the arena that afternoon and see you can swing a deal.
I mean, it's on the green line. It's actually kind of tempting.
Yeah, there's definitely like half of that show I'm interested in, and then the other half I'm just like I could skip.
Well, you are serious about tickets, then if you're out there listening and you are serious about tickets, then you're going to want to do so now, because there are very few tickets around the arena on Ticketmaster, at least. I'm sure other websites would have a different angle for you, but yeah, this thing is going to be 95% sold. So
yeah, by Saturday it'll sell out by Saturday, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Especially with SmackDown in town tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. So there's only a handful of decent seats. There's a handful of seats left in general. Less than those are good. So if you really want to go, you're kind of up against the clock.
There you go.
That 6 o'clock start is very tempting, though.
That helps. That only helps having it start early. I like that.
I love that they start early now. These pay-per-views, please get them early for me. I got things to do afterwards. I'll be brief, and I'll just say the women's matches are the only things I'm interested in the card. And I've been watching NXT religiously. I don't get what they see in Eddie Thorpe aside from an emo Tatanka gimmick. I don't understand it. Maybe it's not for me. I know he's a conniving weasel. That's kind of cool. But aside from that, I feel anyone who's an Ethan Page fan, and I have been for years, I feel like this is a downgrade for him to go to Javon Evans after feuding with Trick for so long. So in reality, I'm with you, Jamal. This is like a 60-40. I give this a C+ show on paper. I really want to see if Fallon can hold her own with Stephanie without any kind of shenanigans, because she is one of the most improved women on the roster. So I'm very curious to see with someone like Stephanie Vicaire, does she have to be carried, or will this be an excellent women's match, or just excellent match, period? Cora, I think, is just there to take the fall. I think the only reason they put her in there is to take the pin, unless this is Roxy's swan song to the main roster and she does the job. But the women's matches is all I'm really looking forward to.
Now here's the hope against hope. does Richard Starkington actually show up?
My guess, I think he at least appears in some form or fashion, even if he's just up like in the balcony and waves. But I assume he makes an appearance in some.
I would say he makes an appearance when Oba beats Aussie Down Under, A-Town Down Under, and he's in the stands to build that up. Because if you look at the men's roster on NXT, they're not, beside Oba, maybe Trick, who's on his way out. I know they're trying Wesley really hard to be that next, major heel. But who else you got to feed the Oba?
It needs that infusion. It needs that fresh meat.
Exactly. So for me, it was like Samoa Joe coming out when KO won the NXT championship from Sami Zayn. Similar circumstance. He beats A-Town Down Under, and then, whatever, maybe he had his theme song by then. I would keep his AEW theme song if I was WWE. But they'll have a stare off, or he's a spotlight in the crowd, and it fades to black. Good way to end the show.
I could see it. All right, let's switch gears real quick because there's the other show going on Saturday down in Australia. So let me get this one pulled up here. AEW Grand Slam Australia. Now, this is a weird one because Lord knows when this show was announced, it was going to be a stadium show. People were thinking it was going to be a pay-per-view, and now it's been downsized, and it's just like an episode of Collision, but it's after the All-Star game. I'm not sure what's going on with it. I'd almost had forgotten it was happening going into tonight. But here's what we got on the page for that. And of course, this is definitely a very Australia heavy show as far as like trying to feature people from down there. So as we mentioned earlier, Mercedes Moné versus the red hot Harley Cameron is the TBS championship match. We have Jay White and Cope versus the Death Riders, John Moxley and Claudio in a Brisbane brawl.
Of course.
Boy, oh boy. Kazuchika Okada versus Buddy Matthews for the Continental Championship. Yeah. Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega versus the Don Callis family, Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita. And last but not least, Mariah May versus Timeless Toni Storm for the women's title. So definitely a theme to this show with the people from that region being featured. For me, that Harley match is the most interesting thing on there because Lord knows by force of sheer will, she has gotten herself over as a character. And Lord knows AEW is supposed to be, the not sports entertainment company. She's gotten herself over through sports entertainment. So
she brought out puppets.
Yes. Yep. Puppets, guitars, music, you name it. She
speaks Chinese, we found out yesterday.
She speaks Chinese.
Like she's honestly, in my mind, she is too talented for the wrestling business. The sheer book of tricks this girl has is amazing. It's crazy. But
and these are the promos that have been coming up in the past, couple weeks, month, that she is an actual ventriloquist. Obviously, we know that she can sing. She did the rap thing. We knew that. Didn't know that she spoke Chinese, which is like, why isn't she not in Shanghai right now promoting the company or working with GLEAT or something like that, or Singapore or something? I mean, come on, she speaks Chinese. But, being from Australia is a thing too. She's from Queensland, Gold Coast, apparently. So this isn't necessarily a hometown show, as the Gold Coast is about 2-3 hours away from Brisbane. But it's still to the point of this show was originally supposed to be at Suncorp Stadium, home of the Broncos for the National Rugby League of Australia. 60,000 people in the stadium, craziness. And then it gets reduced to, could you imagine WrestleMania being in Allegiant Stadium, and then 6 months before the show, they're moving it to Sam's Town?
Ooh, Sam's Town. I've been to Sam's Town.
or okay, fine. Maybe not Sam's Town, but what's the arena at the MGM, the Garden Arena?
Yeah.
There is no way in the blue hell that you want to sell me on the first ever show in Australia that was supposed to be billed as a stadium level show. It's Grand Slam, which was a stadium show. And they're doing it in Australia for whatever reason. Okay, fine, we'll give them that. They're doing it not in July for whatever reason. Okay, fine, we'll give them that too. It's in fucking Australia, which means the show is going to be live at like 3 a.m. Okay, fine. And then they move the venue from the rugby joint to the bingo hall across the street. That says a lot about the presentation of the show.
Mhm.
And AEW already doesn't put a lot into the presentation of their shows in general. Like, they're not known for their most dynamic sets and stuff like that as far as that level of presentation goes. Also, there's only 5 matches. It's the most un-AEW show that I think they've ever put on. Not because it's not a 5.5-hour spectacle, not because, of the lack of. Dynamite should have been there from Australia this week. Collision should be from Australia this week. Ring of Honor is going to be in Australia this week, but nobody's going to see it. What is AEW doing?
I feel like you've asked that question every week now. What are they doing?
I mean, like, how is this a thing? And that doesn't even count the fact that it's buried under the hype in the TNT, HBO Max, Warner Brothers universe because of the fucking All-Star game. And that the TNT also has the 4 Nations Cup for hockey. So there's really no room for AEW doing a show in the middle of the night. And this is a pay-per-view?
That's the part that bugs me.
It's a big episode of Collision. Mm-hmm. That's what it is nowadays.
So I'm going to repeat my answer from before of what's interesting about this pay-per-view, the women's matches. Again, I will say that is the thing that I'm most interested in watching. And yes, let's give Harley Cameron her flowers. She went from being Soraya's lackey to possibly being the most over woman in the company. So
which
that's
really
impressive.
About how they've been using Toni Storm.
At this point, I would say she's probably the most over act they have at this moment right now.
Which is bananas.
Correct. When we had Timeless Toni Storm for a year with that gimmick, and now it's like, oh, hey, here's another Aussie who's over and the fans love her, and we'll see what the match is like. I do have a question, though, since I haven't been keeping up with AEW. Maybe Jamal can answer it. Yeah. Did we stop the rookie Toni Storm gimmick to go back to Timeless?
Yeah, she was acting.
Oh, okay. Because I kind of like that cornball. I'm a rookie gimmick. I kind of like that.
She's back to Timeless versus regular old Mariah May at the show.
I don't like that they pulled that trigger.
At least that's what we're being told.
That's the main event, you said, Will?
Should it be the main event? I think it should.
Well, Luther's going to be there, so of course it's the main event.
So let me end my part in this and ask you a question. With the rise of Harley Cameron, what is a good outcome for her with this match with Mercedes? Because I feel like this is a lose-lose situation for Mercedes.
Oh, no, not at all. And the reason why I say that is because Mercedes does not, she's the CEO, ain't going to get bigger than her. The only place for her is to push Miro out of the side and literally fight God because she's CEO. So she doesn't need the secondary title that she's been desperately holding on to. Yeah. She needs to be in the world title picture. If Toni Storm needs some time to reset her batteries, come up with a new gimmick, maybe she goes Timeless, maybe she doesn't, whatever. But they've we know that they pigeonhole themselves. They only have Mariah May versus Toni Storm because they really don't have another option at that level. They're going with Mercedes versus Harley Cameron because honestly, they're stuck Mercedes with the belt, and Harley Cameron got over by sure will. And the fact that we have, other people that we've already mentioned, like Willow, for example, that really should be in that conversation as well, and really isn't, is a testament to how they book the women. So I'll just end it with this. Mercedes needs to move up. Cameron, in her home country, should take the belt.
Absolutely. I have zero
That's how you open the show.
Think of not to do it. Now, if you were going with the idea, well, maybe Harley's not ready for that, make the change anyway, and then when she gets back, you can have her drop the title to someone else back here. But give her the moment in the country, in front of the crowd, create a moment. Yes. That's all it needs to be, is a moment on Saturday.
They've done worse with better.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's no reason I can think of to do it. It's time for Mercedes to move up. You're not going to have a hotter challenger than this. This is it.
Yeah.
So you stumble, by like I said, by sheer luck, you've stumbled into this. It's fallen into your lap. So pull the trigger. Do it. Give Harley the belt on Saturday.
Oh, okay. So apparently, and this is on me. I should have realized this. Yes, it was originally going to be a pay-per-view, but apparently in place of Collision, Grand Slam will air. But nobody told him that the All-Star game was happening that weekend. So even though Grand Slam will have already happened on the 15th in the early morning, yeah, we won't see it until later anyway. So why
Scheduling pretty much all comes down to
it's the All-Star game on TNT, and that's been a thing for 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, even if they aired it live on TNT at 2 a.m, cool. And besides, also, more importantly, if you know that the All-Star game is going to end, All-Star Saturday night, rather, which is more important than the game itself, is going to end around 11 p.m. Eastern. Even if they aired the damn thing at midnight, that's still okay. You still would have had a lead-in from the All-Star game. They could have done that, and it would have made more sense than filming the show and then tape delaying it, because the internet's going to have a field day if it's a bad show. So a lot of people, I don't know. It's just, don't do this again, Con. Whatever, you'll do something stupid, but you won't do this again.
All right. Well, we'll get to talk about that next week for sure. We'll have the fallout of all that. We went extra time tonight, folks. So let's get the train rolling. I know. We'll see. Saturday's going to be some interesting shows this weekend. So we'll have stuff to talk about next week already in the pipeline. So, folks, to wrap it up, Thursday nights, 8 p.m., your Big Gold Wrestling Podcast is here each and every single week, streaming on Twitch, streaming on X, streaming on YouTube. We are live every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Afterwards, the stream lives on YouTube. So if you're looking to see the video version, the stream is there on YouTube. The podcast audio version drops shortly thereafter on all your favorite podcast platforms, also including YouTube. The audio version's there too. So lots of ways to watch if you don't happen to catch us Thursdays at 8 when we go live. Of course, on social media, you can find us at Big Gold Belt across the board, whether it's X, Instagram, Blue Sky, all your different platforms. It's at Big Gold Belt across the board. Big Gold Belt Media, your one-stop shop for wrestling, movies, comics, and more. Of course, over on BigGoldBelt.com, there is a lot going on this weekend because, there's a Brave New World hitting the theaters, and there seems to be a lot of conflicting reviews on that one. So I know Najir saw it yesterday and has posted what he put up about it. So there's coverage of that over on Big Gold Belt Media. So if you're looking to know what's going on with Marvel this weekend, we can help you out with that.
One thing about movies, and I'll make it very quick.
Okay.
The biggest movie in the world right now is Nezha Part 2, Chinese movie. I saw it at IMAX on yesterday. It is arguably the best animated movie I've seen since Puss in Boots 2. And if I had never seen that movie, it may be the best thing I've seen in about 10 years, since maybe The Incredibles 2.
Okay.
The point is, see it in theaters. This is not something that you want to dick around and wait for when you get home. It's bananas. The first movie is definitely out streaming. It came out in 2019 or so. This one, get yourself caught up. Get your tickets to see it this weekend. And get your tickets early because they are selling out. The word has come out for the motherland that this thing is the thing that you need to see. And between Kingdom of the Gods and Detective Chinatown, there have been a lot of movies that have come out from the Chinese market in the past 2 weeks or so because of the Lunar New Year. But this is the granddaddy of them all. It's grossed $1.5 billion in 13 days.
Jeez.
It is the largest movie from a single country ever in the history of ever. It's the largest, highest grossing non-Western movie ever in the history of ever. For a number of different reasons, you can argue about the numbers later, but the bottom line is it's that fucking good.
So there you go. What we're saying is, don't worry about Brave New World this weekend. There's your game plan instead for your movie watching.
I'm seeing it again after I see Captain America this weekend.
There you go. So lots of stuff going on with that, folks. If you're looking to find out what's going on with the movies and all our kinds of other entertainment, Big Gold Belt Media has you covered. Until then, folks, we will see you next week, Thursdays at 8 p.m. You got all the hookups so we're to find Big Gold Belt at Big Gold Belt across the board. And let's see if Harley wins the belt this weekend. I think that'll be our big question.
She damn well better. Do a con. Do it for the people.
Seriously. Make it happen on Saturday. We'll talk about it next week right here on Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. Thanks for being here, folks, and we'll talk to you next week.